Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Louisville Literary Arts December 2021 InKY reading series. We have two awesome authors with us tonight. But what I want to do first, I always do the taking care of business piece first. So in the chat, you have the link to Louisville Literary Arts. If you would like to make a donation or become a member, that link is there for you to do so. And by the way, I guess I should have introduced myself. I am Charlize Lewis, the executive director of Louisville Literary Arts. That's what I should have said first. But I've been on here talking to people already, so I figured everybody knew who I was. But tonight, we're going to be on here for about an hour and 15 minutes or so. It just depends how everyone feels, if we want to keep going or if we want to call it a night. We recognize everybody's time is valuable. But tonight, again, we have some wonderful people who are going to be reading for us. And so I want to start with our first reader, author for the night, and it is Mr. Bernard Clay. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I'm going to read the bio that he sent. And if you were on the webpage, you saw it. If you have not seen it, you can always go to Louisville Literary Arts and view that. But he also has a website, which I've also put in the chat. Bernard Clay is a Louisville, Kentucky native who received an MFA in creative writing from the University of Kentucky Creative Writing Program and is a member of the Appalachian Poets Collective. His work has been published in various journals and anthologies. He currently resides on a farm in Eastern Kentucky. English Lit is his first book. And again, his link to his website and to purchase his work is it's in the chat. But I did tease him a little bit, and I wanted to know, how did someone from Louisville end up at the University of Kentucky? And he kindly told me it was not for the basketball team. But he did say he wanted to be a part of the Appalachian Poets. So welcome, Bernard, and go ahead, do your thing.
All right. Well, first I'd like to thank Charlize and Louisville, the Literary Louisville Arts program for having me here. It's a great honor to read in this reading. I've been following this reading since it was at the Rudd. So I've been following it for a while and a big fan of it. And it's a real honor to finally be featured as a reader here. So I'm going to read from my book, English Lit. And I'm going to read a few poems, about 20 minutes worth of poems. But English Lit is a book that I wrote that over a course of about 25 years that talks about growing up in Louisville, growing up a Black person in Louisville, and dealing with the things that you encounter in a life like that. And so the first poem, so the poems that I'm going to read to you guys are going to be poems that are innately tied to Louisville or have some connection to Louisville. So this is sort of my love letter to Louisville that I'm going to read you guys. And so the first poem that I'm going to read is called All Relative. And so I'm from Louisville and my last name is Clay and I'm also Black. And there's also somebody else from Louisville who's Black and the last name was Clay. So this is a poem about the relationship. It's called All Relative. People asked what it was like being a cousin of the greatest. I shoot back, I know what you know. Spoken word histories, recited over haircuts by barber bards, infectious sound bites, and micro poems, elaborately staged fights, and bucking the whole system. I did actually meet him once though, back when summer would hang all my sisters and me out the car door windows like dog tongues. We rode through downtown when daddy stomped the brakes. And next thing we know, daddy's hollering, cash. And we're cutting the line of Whitey, just a different trim. He has a self-portrait stretched on his shirt and the words, the greatest, stretched tight across his chest. He poses for a picture with just me his fist, the same size as my head, raised to my chin in a ruddy Polaroid, my only proof we met. The other time was barely a rendezvous. I was in high school and at war with the world and myself. When he returned to Central High, his alma mater, an Afro Messiah, barely able to murmur, but happily struggling to still raise his shrunken fist to a crowd of strangers, chins, just like he had done with me in the now lost Polaroid. I left without saying a word, angry, blaming everything but jealousy because I thought our connection was special. The last time I was in his physical presence, it had been so long, I had almost forgotten he was my second cousin. He was hidden in this box, draped black and gold, stitched with Arabic calligraphy. I hardly felt anything as relatives posed with this casket for social media. So I left the service and went deep into the West End where we all came from. And biking through the people-lined streets was a swarm of pedal-propelled butterflies. All of us he had touched, all of us who got goosebumps when he dazzled a mic, all of us with Polaroids of some sort posed with him, raising a fist to our chins. And it was then I knew I wasn't his family because of my blood or my last name. I was his family because he made his block, his city, this world, his family. So continuing the tour of Louisville, I'm going to take us down. So I went down into the West End at the end of that poem. So let's stay down in the West End. I know seemingly it's a bad area, but believe it or not, that's where Louisville's neighborhood, first suburb was. So I'm going to talk about 28th and Catalpa. And 28th Catalpa is sort of my segregation poem, like talking about being able to witness the signs of segregation still visible in Louisville when I was a young kid in the 80s in Louisville. This is called 28th and Catalpa. In the 80s, on walks to the bus stop, Mom would fill in the exposed, empty, burned out spaces of entire city blocks, augmenting reality to a pre-riot state. So where Mom sees a soda fountain shop, tasting the bubbly bite of root beer, waited on at the counter instead of getting it to go at the back door, as she watches the bustle of brown pedestrians in business attire passing by, like this is baby Harlem. I see nothing but a headless structure with graffiti boarded eyes on a 20-year death fall into a puddle of bricks. And over there, at that department store-sized gunshot wound at the corner of 28th and Catalpa, her eyes take her shopping at the Black Run department store. She peruses phantom aisles, trying on polyester garments at the only department store she's allowed to at the time. And across the street at the Cinemaplex, she sits in front row, not the balcony, flinching her way through 7 watchings of Hitchcock's The Birds. I just stare through the dead theater's scorched rib bones jutting up from its shelled carcass, the gray Louisville skyline barely visible through the murk. Mom would sometimes say, they tricked us into thinking separate was bad. We get that reminder every time we walk through this place so we can pay bus fare to reach their equality. As we wait in this crematorium, which in the morning fog still smoldered like it did the day after King was assassinated. The next poem that I'm going to read, so I went down to the West End. I was talking about, the urban decay that was left to languish in the West End for at least 20 to 25 years after the riots occurred. And so now I'm going to talk about Iroquois Park, but I'm going to talk about Iroquois Park circa 1980s. Again, I'm going back in time. And I don't know if anybody is from Louisville or remembers Park back then, but Iroquois Park is a different beast than it is nowadays. It's pretty safe to go and pretty cool to go there. It's got nice biking and everything. But during the 80s, it was a lot of things going on there, crime-wise. But it was still a bastion or an oasis for somebody who lived in the inner city of Louisville like myself. So this is Iroquois Park. Also, to preface this, I'm going to let you know that I'm a 7-day Adventist. And so when I say Sabbath in this poem, I'm talking about Saturday, because 7-day Adventists call their Saturday Sabbath. It's called Iroquois Park. On some fall Saturdays, after hours of being trapped in a prison of droning designed to shame me, mom broke norms and Sabbath. We leave the stained glass early, invite my BFF to sleep over, pick up a box of wings and wedges from Indies, avoiding dad for the afternoon, and heading out to that mound south of the city. After eating, while mom lay on the picnic table and read long neglected Jet magazines, LaRon, Vet, and I approached the hulking hill before us that we likened to a porcupine leviathan, like the one that ate Jonah. And we ran full speed at it, got swallowed behind its jawless row of tulip poplar teeth, and let the dense honeysuckle seize us deeper into the belly of those woods. We kept charging through and up to its limestone blowhole lookout point to view the skewed city spiderweb out to every horizon. Then we'd shoot all the way down the Persian rug of gold and orange leaves on our backs, the city and everything else falling away, eventually getting down to mom, my eyes thunderstormed, my shame gone. Then we go home. And if sports were off, and if daddy's team had won, then right before SNL's cold open, he would give LaRon and me the "Whose daddy makes the best popcorn" quiz. We'd answer, "You do, of course." That newfangled microwave corn of LaRon's suburbia couldn't stand up to daddy's hot out the pot masterpieces, each buttered and salted handful, a crunchy blessing. The next poem I'm going to read is a foreign poem, but it's about, so I let you in on the secret that it's not a secret really, but I'm 7-day Adventist. I put it a lot in this book because, as you may know, religion if you grow up in a religious household, it has a big impact on you. And so this is about the impact and the coming of age of me. So I had to talk about the things that had impacts on me. And so this poem is talking about the waning years of me being a 7-day Adventist, when I became sort of just not really interested in it. This is called a high boom for Magazine Street Church. And a high boom is a form that originated in Japan, and it consists of a dense piece of prose, like lyrical prose, and then a haiku. And so I'll let you know when I break for the haiku. I'm gonna read High Boom for Magazine Street Church. Oh, magazine, your services are a journey through meaningless circular sermons of turn the other cheek. I protest with my feet kicks to the backs of pews, finger flicks to clip-on ties, and from the balcony I crash church bulletin paper airplanes into the backs of hats and fascinators. Weekly Sabbath dinner socials in the basement are canned veggie franks and Lowry's seasoned green beans to salinate our souls, as red Kool-Aid magma bathes our brains and catapults us out into the parking lot, a pissing contest for show-offs that I win by all the kids telling me to get away because their parents say I need to be medicated? Here's the haiku. My rock nails a sweat bee nest. Sister's mouth gets stung. I get my ass whooped. All right, so the final poem that I'm going to read, I think, yeah, I might read, well, maybe I'll read another one. I'm going to read one about writing. I'm going to throw one in because I feel like I'm going a little faster than I thought. So I'm going to read one about writing. If I can find the right page. So this doesn't have anything to do with Louisville, but it's a cool poem, and I like reading it sometimes. And so since this is a literary group, I'm gonna read. It's called Saving Poems, and it talks about what happens when you don't have your journal handy. It's called Saving Poems. How many poems have scintillated like day stars on the yellow horizon? A quick flicker at stifling afternoon staff meetings. How many poems have sat on my nose tip, gnome big, staring me down through one more TV show binge, only to be smashed into my pores when I pass out and roll over on them? How many poems have latched within my nether hairs, gnawing, picked up in the woods, camped out somewhere, then washed down the drain at my next hot shower? How many poems have leapt on my eyelids, heavy with hip curves dancing in smoke shadows dissipating from my mouth? Those poems go free and explore. How lucky. But most, if caught, become birdcage liner, forgotten under the downpour of more and more. The final poem that I'm going to read is, I grew up in Louisville, like I said, and my mom only had one car. So my main mode of transportation was the TARC bus when I was a teenager. And I also worked like 25 to 30 hours a week while going to school. And so this poem, the poems that I wrote in English Lit span 25 years. This poem I wrote while I was in that situation. It's been revised many times, but it still encompasses the spirit of what was going on. This is called I Still Ride the TARC, and this is the TARC circa 1990s. So it's probably not the TARC that you ride now. It's a little bit nicer now these days, but back in the day, they were neglected. I'm not gonna lie about it. So here's I Still Ride the TARC. I still ride the TARC buses with their pissy smelling seats, gum stuck to feet, odor of butt and malt liquor, overhead fluorescent light flickers, back bench full of shopping bags, seats tattooed with graffiti tags, redundant ringing of stop bells, old vets spitting tall tales, lanes and flyaway collars, dudes peeping girls itching to holler, grease spots on the window that seep from hair from bums stretched out of sleep who just don't care, little badass kid screams, old lady evil eye beams, headphones blasting until ears are sore, old transfers and pay stubs littering the floor, disproportionate abundance of the Black race, bus drivers clutching cans of mace. When shipping us goods from the hoods to the malls, this concrete ship rarely stalls, rushes us to serve on the trip out, our bodies be en route, economically packed from the front to the back, and them raising prices all the time to be middle passage confined in the belly of the steel beast. And when us suburban laborers are released by drivers late, they demonstrate an attitude. That's when I get rude, because on the way back to our shanty township, the buses break down and be ill-equipped, worn seat vinyl and bald tires, and drivers who in 2 days will retire. So I get home at midnight, my work journey hours equaling 10. And the next day, guess what? I gotta do it all again. Just the blase on that TARC every day. Why? It's my only way. Thank you, Louisville Literary, for letting me read. I appreciate it.
Well, I guess I should unmute myself, right? Thank you so much, Bernard, for that. That was awesome. I really enjoyed it. And the thing is I'm not from Louisville, but when you start talking about the park, you start talking about Indies, you start talking about all these places that when you're in your teenage and college years and you're probably not supposed to be out in the street where you're hanging out. So I thought that was really awesome because I was very familiar with the places you were talking about. I'm trying to make sure everybody can hear me. I keep saying my internet is unstable. I don't know what's going on today.
We can hear you.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you, Irv. It's doing something wild, but that's okay.
You're not breaking up either. And
Does anybody
Bernard,
have any feedback?
I wanted to tell Bernard, I rode the bus home from high school every day in the 60s. So if it was bad in the 80s, I guarantee you it was not clean in the 60s.
It was even worse, probably.
But you know what? It was there. So we were able to ride it.
Yeah, it's definitely a needed thing, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm a Louisville native, lived here all my life. I thoroughly enjoyed hearing your tour of the city.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I really do appreciate it. Thank y'all for, attending and participating. Quite an honor for me.
Bernard, I really, really enjoyed your reading, and I remember you as a very, very young man at GSA.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's where I got my start.
Yeah, being mentored by Frank X when I was the counselor, and I just to see you now is such a thrill.
Oh, Lynn?
Lynn.
Lynn. Oh, yeah. I know you, Lynn Slaughter. Yes. Sorry. I was like not making the connection, but yeah. GSA. It's good seeing you. Sorry. I'm sorry to get that excited, guys. It's just, I do.
I'm
doing
thrilled
okay?
to see you again.
It's good seeing you too.
Yeah.
Now, Lynn, aren't you reading next month for us?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
All right.
It's just a thrill to hear Bernard read, because I knew him when he was very, very young, and just getting his start. And what a thrill to see how he's blossomed as an artist. Just wonderful.
That's awesome.
Gives me chills. So.
All right. Now we're ready for our final reader for the night, Miss Lana Helm. Now look, I'm going to read her bio, how she sent it. Now I don't know, am I supposed to read it in an accent or not? I don't know.
That would be amazing.
I'm not going to do it. Okay. Lana is a different kind of animal. She writes with no abandon, selects an accent of the day in which to speak, and anxiously awaits the moment her superpowers will be revealed. She is hoping these will include time travel, flying, and breathing underwater. Lana aspires to be discovered as the direct heir to the throne of England, although she has been verified as a third-generation descendant of the Irish and German peoples. As long as she is alive and awake, she will write to live and live to write, hopefully with a crown up on her head. Lana is also a member of our Louisville Literary Arts Board of Directors. Presenting to some and introducing to others, Miss Lana Helm.
Hi, thank you. Yeah, so I was tired of the old boring bios that I had to write repeatedly I went to school here and I've got this many poems published, and that kind of speaks more to my personality, I think, than anything else. So this little collection of poems I put together is not in a book yet. I'm still working on that prospect, but you will see a lot of those things about my personality come through in these. And if you don't know or haven't heard me read before, I am obsessed with octopuses and I write about them frequently. And therefore I write about the water and just animal and nature a lot in general. So that will kind of weave its way through as the octopus does through these poems. So I have a handful here. So I'll just go ahead and start. This one is called On the Shore. You came to me, bridging the gaps of time and space since you last belonged to me, those last few precious hours. That unstoppable movement of days disappearing like stray sticks and stones caught in the rapids sweeping you away. My heart rushes to embrace you, watches helplessly the flow which pulls you far from me. There must be a waterway that has an end, that does not empty into an unknown vastness where you are lost from my blood, which courses for the love of you. I wade into the water's edge and wait for you to find your way back to me. This one is called Among Animals, and I'm actually going to read it before I tell you what it's about. I like for people to get their own impression, but this one happens to be about a particular event. So it's Among Animals. Into the night you took me to the place of lighted paths and winter skies. Into a maze of sights and sounds we walked together, hands bound. The wind rushed wild around us, circling like a predator. We held tight to each other, marveled at the flickers of blues and reds and greens and whites of eyes piercing the darkness, keeping us captive in the magic hold of the new year coming. A solitary, lonely howl broke the silence, made us wonder how long the world would be like this. Does anybody think they know what that one might be about? I'll take guesses.
Possibly the turn of the millennium.
Close. It was at the New Year, but I went to a lighted night at the zoo during Christmas.
Oh,
And so this is about walking through the zoo in the dark, which doesn't get to happen very often with all the Christmas lights. Colors come up a lot in things that are important to me. I usually always have something blue on, and this one is called Blue. From my blueness, I emerged, or rather you emerged me. I had been locked within the coldness of my barren soul, searching, not searching for fire. You found me drowning in the iced over waters, and once you grasped, you never let go. Without your hands, what would I have become? How long would I have lasted? Now all our time together kindles the brightest of lights in our hearts, slowly edges the blue away, turns us to the deep riches of red. And sometimes my octopus poems are not blatantly about octopuses. Sometimes they're about a relationship. And even to me, after writing them and going back months later, I'm like, what was this one about? Was this about an actual octopus or was this about a relationship? So I I love when that happens because it gives a new mystery to my own writing for me. And it shows me too as a teacher, because I'm a teacher of writing, how interpretation is a lot of what gives life to a poem or to a piece of writing. So interpreting even what I wrote differently is kind of exciting. So this one's called Water. The breath of life flows in and out between the lines of my lungs. It brings with it little bits to feed my aching soul. It is impossible to splash this far into the depths I ponder as I watch parades of bubbles pass me by. I am ingrained here in the sea, often clutching to the ocean floor, searching for caves, for escape and shelter. I remember you, the times you have come with your artificial gills, your eyes shielded from the salt that is such a part of me. We have touched, have connected on all levels that man and creatures can. And when we have known a truer bond than those of their own kind. This water we share is the blood that runs between us, these hearts we have full, plenty, bursting. I love seeing all the little claps. It's so fun. A lot of times I have, well, frequently have crazy dreams, and luckily I can remember those a lot. And so they find their way to the page. This one is called This Life, and it's in parts. Part 1. You said I moved like a cat through the shadows of the looming night, my eyes disguising if I were a monster or beast. I stayed hidden for so long you thought me asleep or unaware, moved toward me, unwillingly urged me to run. Part 2. I wove my way through the moonlit woods stealthily, as the way the sun rises from depths to sky, with us unknowing, unaware. The trees were thin, having shed their summer cover, letting in more light than a creature could care for. It was there in the forest where you said you fell in love with the mystery of me. Part 3. Through the night, in lieu of sleep, we kept our chase. I gave you no movement to sit before I was off again, to perhaps climb among the branches, to lay in patient waiting for your discovery of me. Once you sensed my movement and jumped as if snuck upon. I smiled as any cat does at my accidental practicality. Part 4. You chased me without relent through silences of fields and hurtful floors of needles spread across our path. I wondered, did you sometimes lose track of me, need help tracing me back into your sights? Soon we would reach the water, and what then? What then? Part 5. But cats don't swim, you thought, having forgotten I am more like you. You watched as I delicately cupped my human hands to drink of the forest's fountain. I drank to sate my hunger, our chase having worn me to bones. It was time, we both knew, for this to end. And so I stayed still at the water's edge, drank you in as I had swallowed the cool liquid of the land. It was time, you said, for us to go to where I did not question. Your eyes told me everything I would ever need to know, told me of a beautiful place made only for us in the middle of the world. Home, you whispered as you opened the door. And as I was preparing the poems tonight, I thought, well, I should go with the theme, and it seems December, winter is a good theme, but it was 60 degrees today. So I wasn't in the real mood for the snowy, cold poems that I have a lot of. Although this one, it was kind of an obvious choice. It's called Winter. And again, it's in parts, and it is part of a dream as well. Winter. 1. As I woke, I thought it would have melted. the snow which had settled on the tiny window ledge of our apartment high in the city. But the snowflakes had kept their shapes in the night, defying the form of water they were destined to be. How did they survive but for the little wall of ice built up around them, pressing them to the glass, imprinting their forms as if little bits of cut paper dolls? 2. Angels, you called them. A miniature choir greeting us in the morning as the streetlights faded away, the day breaking across the sky. The cobblestones let off their steam as the frozen caps seeped into the cracks between. This is our gift, you said, this day, these moments. Let's hold it all in a globe of time. And sometimes I love making titles for poems, which is not really evident with these past few because they're pretty plain and simple. But sometimes they are very just demographic. This one is called Page 152, and I don't know why. Page 152. How is it, tell me, that you came to land here on this beach, this earth where sand is pressed to sea? Are you of this world or of another planet where the mouths of giants swoop down from the sky to capture life? So I'm going to have to investigate some of my books for page 152. I do read a lot of science fiction, and there is the theory that octopuses are aliens. So I'm thinking that came from some reading or watching of some sci-fi at some point. This next one is called River. The river has frozen so deep it no longer flows. It does not carry the pieces meant to move from here or meant to drift before our eyes. The river is a garden of snow and ice, still and silent in the winter's days and nights. We cannot hear its rush. We cannot gauge the depths of the waters, nor know how far we would plunge before fading out among the rocks below. We are safe here beside the fire. So the deal with the octopus is that when I was in grad school, I was in Seaside, Oregon for part of my residencies, and I met an octopus in an aquarium. And it was a sentient moment in my life, to say the very, very least. And she has stayed with me through all of this adventure as a writer and a poet. And even though she's long gone by now, octopuses only live about a year. And when I had gone back the year after I met her, she had died, and they never gave her a name, which I thought was very sad. But I like to think that she kind of lives on because she goes everywhere with me. This is called Octopus Alone. I often feel alone in this long distance love, an octopus without her mate to keep her safe as she spends her life creating life. I often feel forgotten, as one does when they moan at the moon and receive no response. I am traveling, seafaring in my deformed bubble of reality, worn at the tips of my arms from moving too fast and too far to find you. I am degenerating on the ocean floor, forlorn, but yet beloved. My home is desecrated here, abandoned by my unwillingness to stay true to what I thought we had. I have denounced my majesty, dismantled my crooked crown, decided I am no longer fit to reign. Do you understand, my love, how you have sent me to water so deep and dark? Have I been removed from your dedicated soul? My breath grows thin, dims, expires. I not only write about animals and nature and, you know, all these and colors and all the typical things poets write about, I guess. But sometimes I'm drawn to write a poem for someone. So my friend's mom, Donna, who's like a mom to me, loves crows, and there are crows all over her house. And so after I visited her for the first time, I wrote this one. It's called The Crow. After the solstice, the longest, darkest day, the sun rises and lights the sky with the fires of too many years to count. We have been given too much to bear, and we plead for our pain to be lifted, if even slightly, to allow us a single moment of easy breaths. We feel we are unacknowledged as we burn beneath the winter ash. But the crow, he has watched us all this time. He comes without our beckoning, lands at our feet. He urges our hands open, takes our seeds of grief in his mouth, and flies away. And this is my last little one, and I hope it causes as much introspection as it does other times that I've read it. It's called The Octopuses Camera. They gave you a camera to show us the world through your eyes. But from the inside of a tank, what can one see but a reflection? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lana. Anybody have any feedback for her?
I'm just really struck by your deep connection to this octopus and how much this really inspired you and has stayed with you. It's just fascinating, Lana. It really is. So thank you for sharing that.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, she really changed my life. There's octopuses all over this room and everything.
Wow. Wow.
Was the one you met in Oregon the one that inspired you to become so, I guess, is that the one that led you to become so enamored of octopi?
Yes, absolutely. We were just on a break for the day, and my friend and I went to this little tiny aquarium on the seashore, and there was virtually no one there. And the staff said, "Would you like to feed the octopus?" And I love animals, so I was like, "Yeah, I want to feed the octopus." Oh my gosh. So she gave me some little shrimp or whatever, and I put them in my hand, and she wrapped her arm around me and, you know, took them and just kind of held on to my hand for a second and then went back into the water. And it just, in that singular moment, I felt everything change.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Oh, fascinating. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing with us tonight. Again, Lana is one of our board members. She's been on the board about as long as I've been the executive director, half a year, right?
Yeah, yeah. Volunteering a lot for several years, but yeah, officially.
Officially, yes, yes. And we have a lot of work ahead of us for 2022. And we thank everyone just so much for supporting Louisville Literary Arts. We've had, you know, some challenges as we're trying to maneuver through this pandemic, but we also know that we are not alone. Everyone else is trying to maneuver as well. So we're making the best of it all. And we're still coming together to read and to write and to fellowship virtually. And we're hoping that 2022 will give us the opportunity to come back to some of our in-person activities. And we're really excited about the direction we're going. And you will hear from us soon. We are going to reach out to all those who have been reading for InKY. We're going to reach out to you all for some special events a little bit later on in 2022. So get ready. because we're coming back and we're coming back strong to our in-person and to our full-fledged programming. We are working hard behind the scenes to make it happen. Again, if you want to donate to Louisville Literary Arts, you can go to our website. You can also become a member. We have all levels of membership. So depending on which level you want to join, will also depend on your level of discounts or free classes. But we thank you all so much for joining us tonight. And we will be back again in January. And Lynn Slaughter will be reading. And also our Director of Social Media and Marketing, Sarah McCart Jackson, will also be reading. So it's going to be exciting. And again, we thank you all so much for the support you've given us. And we will see you in 2022. Have a good evening. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Night.
Good night.
Bye.